Good to go.
Let's call the meeting to order. Please rise and pledge the flag. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Would you call the roll?
Commissioner Lyons.
Here.
Vice Mayor Stanley.
Here.
Commissioner Orthwein. Mayor Morgan.
Here.
Also present are Town Manager Dunham, Assistant Town Attorney Nazaro, Police Chief Allen, and myself, and absent with notice is Commissioner White.
Thank you very much. We've had the minutes from our last meeting of June 11th presented to us. Are there any comments, changes? A motion to approve?
Motion to approve the minutes from the last commission meeting.
Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner Lyons.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley.
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein.
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes. I don't believe we have any additions or changes to the agenda. So let's go on to the next meeting. Our next meeting will be August 13th at 9 a.m., but please note the September meeting will be at 4 o'clock because it needs to be followed at 5:01 with a budget meeting. Comments from the public? Anybody wish to speak? Big crowd today. All right. Let's move on to the hearing. Any ex parte communications by commission on the Gulfstream Golf Club matter? No. Mr. Lyons will be recusing, correct? Correct. Okay. Ms. Taylor, would you administer oaths to anyone who wishes to speak?
Please stand, raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay. Application on behalf of the Gulfstream Golf Club. Who's going to present?
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
I don't want to, I know you've seen this before, so I don't want to put anyone to sleep, but I'll walk through a presentation and recap what we are proposing. So I'm here today on behalf of the Gulfstream Golf Club. My name is Ryan Swilly. I'm the golf course superintendent of nearly 8 years there. And I'm here today requesting permission to install a reverse osmosis system for irrigation water supply use. We currently are using a series of wells that are permitted by South Florida Water Management District to irrigate and have been for as long in the past as I can remember. We're permitted to irrigate 155 million gallons per year with the current water use permit. And one of the challenges we face at the golf club is water conservation. For one, but water quality is another issue for us. So the way we store our water, we put our water into a system currently that has lots of salt intrusion and sort of creates some problems for the golf course. So we're here to propose the RO system, which will not only reduce the demand on potable water or drinking water, but it will also give the club more viable irrigation quality water to use. So the slides behind me, I just want to point out one of our missions at the golf club. We have very intense out-of-on programs. So we have a number of beehives on the golf course. We make our own honey. We've got native bird boxes, which are new this year, an osprey platform, and a butterfly garden, which we've expanded on, and also sort of a new herb garden section where we're using those herbs to provide meals in the kitchen and sort of a nice organic touch that the chef can use and for the members to use as well. So we also have a series of floating islands around the golf course that we use for removing any pollutants that might end up in the water, and those have live plantings on them. We move them around the golf course and replant every year. And, for just a couple of cool projects that we have for taking care of our 100-acre green space, if you will, in an otherwise densely populated area. Some of the totals I already gave you here, this is a little picture that kind of gives you an idea of the difference in the current well water that we're using. So it's surficial water, which is drinking water that you all use. And you can see on the picture behind me that the surficial well is very shallow. An intermediate well, a fluoride well, is what we're proposing to drill for the use of the RO system. So it's brackish water, and it's drilled somewhere between 13 and 1,500 feet. And the RO plant itself will basically use pressure to clean that water, and we'll be using this water for irrigation only. So essentially reducing demand on drinking water and storing our water in the proposed storage tank, which you'll see today, which will help us irrigate the property. And ultimately, one of the other things we're trying to accomplish is reducing the demand, but also preventing being forced to use reclaimed water. We're getting some pressure from the city of Del Rey as well as the town of Boynton Beach for adopting reclaimed water for use, and South Florida Water Management District is very much in support of seeing high volume water users like golf courses find alternative sources. And one of the most popular is reclaimed water, but being that we're on a barrier island, for me personally, and I think for the club as well, the last thing we want to do is take reclaimed water, introduce it onto the property, and have it run off into the ocean or intercoastal, given the sensitivity of our location. A couple of the things I really probably don't need to bore you with, but the fluoride well, the 12-inch well, as I mentioned, 1,200 to 1,500 feet. We have been permitted by South Florida Water Management District to drill this well and to convert to this water for quite some time. Behind me is a spec of the well. Again, very boring, but we're one of the last golf courses on the this close in proximity to the ocean that is not on reverse osmosis water. Most of our clubs that are, I'm going to say competitors, but clubs of like nature, like Seminole, Lost Tree, many clubs in the area, the Everglades Club, Palm Beach Country Club, all of these clubs are using reverse osmosis water. And as mentioned, finding an alternative water source will be a requirement into the future with South Florida Water Management District. We are permitted until 2027 for our surficial well use, so we're not up against the wall, let's say, to make the conversion, but we want to be proactive and do the right thing and try to get out in front of this, and that's why we're here today, asking for this permission. As you can see behind me, this is a site plan that we've proposed. We have a storage tank located on the western portion of our shop. The RO plant storage building would basically match identically to this existing building that's here today. Essentially, we're looking to put the plant in the storage about as close to the golf course as we can get. The black line depicts the exfiltration trench, which is also a part of the process that's permitted by the DEP for disposing of the brine or the salt water that's created by cleaning the reverse osmosis water. So with the area selected, we'll have plenty of dense vegetation that's existing. A lot of this vegetation is over 75 feet tall and is extremely mature, and then also the new structure where any noise would be coming from will be eclipsed by existing structures along with it dense vegetation. Just these are some examples I showed at our last presentation, but some of our clubs that I mentioned, the Lost Tree Golf Club, their RO plant system is only 272 feet from high-end residential housing. This is the Everglades Club of the Palm Beaches, and I was fortunate enough to tour this facility with Mr. Dunham and Mr. Nazzaro, and you can see their plant is only 110 feet from that small house next door there. So at the Everglades Club, they use a 4-acre storage lake and a percolation pond this is for their concentrate or how they dispose of theirs. We're going to be essentially sending ours through the exfiltration trench, which is a completely below ground process. We talked last time about noise and smell. I think those are the two biggest questions when it comes to this process. And this plant is 25 years old, and as we said, we toured this plant. I don't don't think we had any smell the day that we were there. And noise was not an issue. The plant is definitely noisy inside, but you go outside and there's little to no noise escaping the building. And it's much closer than the plant that we would be looking to install. But two of the things that are important to point out is that this plant's 25 years old. There's been lots of technological advancements. At last we spoke, our engineer, Glenn Miller, who's here today, designed this plant 25 years ago, but they have things like a turbo that you put on that makes the pumps even quieter today than they were 25 years ago. And the fact that we're injecting the waste or disposal back into the ground, it never really sees the surface, I think also eliminates any more concerns about odor. And regarding odor, it's important to point out as well, as a reminder, it is for irrigation water use, not for drinking water. So part of the RO drinking water plant is the removal of sulfur dioxide from the water. So it's more pleasant to drink, but the grass doesn't mind drinking sulfur dioxide. So we'll be not stripping that from the water, which is part of what makes that rotten egg smell that you might get from a normal drinking water RO plant. This is a better picture of our site plan. And again, these are existing structures. This is our current maintenance building, a maintenance building that was built a few years back. And again, we're 184.6 feet from the edge of the road. I think it was 272 feet from the closest residence, so a pretty good distance. Here's some pictures showing you the existing mature vegetation that we talked about. So the proposed plant would be in this location, and the storage tank would be here. Just another bird's eye view to give you an idea of the size of the buffer and the layout of the shop. Again, existing building, new building here, and storage tank behind.
Brian,
Yes.
can you go back? I wanted to bring up the
Yes,
the
you want.
gate.
Sure.
In this location,
Yes, it is.
can you just point that out?
I can. So I emailed Mr. Dunham and Mr. Nazaro, as well as the chief. We had a meeting requesting sort of an updated construction entrance. One of the issues that we have with our drive is making this corner with any large vehicles. So we just have hedges here, and this is a Maho tree or a sea hibiscus. And so we were able just to cut some limbs off the side of this tree and leave the tree intact and remove a few hedges. And in our meeting the other day, I think everyone was fairly comfortable seeing that we could utilize this area to back down and pull straight in. Kind of the same thing, if we come out with the truck, we can back down and leave straight out versus having to try to make this corner around the building. In our discussions, this entrance is separated from our employee parking lot, so any traffic that would go through here would only be construction related, and it would only be if it were large deliveries or something of that nature, not the construction crews arriving. Part of the other stipulation that we've agreed to is to have a fencing company put up a windscreen green fabric fence that you see around a lot of construction sites to keep the area secure and to keep it locked so no one's using it when we're not getting a delivery.
Yeah, so the goal would be that normal deliveries would still come in the way that you do it now.
Yes, sir.
I mean, this would only be used for like low boys, you know, bringing in large pieces of equipment, and then I guess the pipe that.
Yeah. So a little bit of an update on that.
Okay.
So the well casing is 12-inch, as I mentioned, and they're in 20-foot sections. So if it came on a 53-foot typical semi-trailer, you would have two pieces stacked. You'd have 40 feet of pipe in a truck. In talking further with All Webs, our driller, because it's sort of an incremental use type of process, they're only going to use however much they drill that day. they've agreed to have all of the casing delivered to their shop, and they have their own trucks, so they're gonna bring it down in 20-foot sections. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to get all of those deliveries around this way and only use this for mobilization and demobilization of the equipment.
Right.
So I think that we'll have pretty limited use.
Yeah, so I mean, that is, gonna be a green construction that you see, and it will be closed.
Yeah.
So that these subcontractors that don't get the message, sometimes, don't go down there and use this.
Years ago, this is just a point, I'm sure it's part of the construction plan, you all were using Gulfview Road for something right after we had paved it, and it damaged the road. So I just want to make sure that any damage to the road as all this comes in,
Yeah.
I'm sure it's
Yeah,
all
I mean,
fine.
there's a damage bond
Yeah.
that we have, although I would argue that it's not high enough, but, but.
I trust you.
But anyway.
But there was just something that happened, this is years ago.
Right.
We had just paved the
Oh,
road.
no, really.
Yeah, right, Rita?
It always happens. that way,
Absolutely.
right?
It was just unfortunate.
Yeah.
I mean, but too bad you did damage before we paved it.
Yeah, so, but the goal is to not have that heavy stuff coming down there on Gulfview.
Yeah, just in case.
Very much, yeah. But we do have damage bonds, and we're dealing with that on another property right now, so.
Okay.
One of the other good things for this site in particular, maybe unlike some residential sites, I'm technically, I guess, the project manager, if you'd like to say that, but I certainly feel that way, even if that's not my title. But my hours are before and after everybody comes and goes. I think working hours are 8 to 5, and I'm 6 to 6, so I'm pretty sure that we'll have a good eye on who's there and what's happening, and so we'll have supervision on site, which will help us for the knuckleheads that don't listen, and so we'll make sure we try to keep.
Just don't turn your radio on.
How long do you think the process is?
So the contract that we've signed with them has 100 days is the not to exceed with penalty. So 100 days is 100 days or less is the goal. Very much.
Well, I have one quick question on that.
Yes.
I live just up the street for that. I assume you're gonna put the hedges back at the end, you're not gonna leave
Oh,
it?
yeah.
Okay, so you're just gonna replace what?
Yeah, so we pulled it was clusia hedge there. We pulled it out, put it in pots, and put it in our nursery. So we'll be replacing those at the conclusion.
I assume you will.
Sure. And then along with that, we'll also keep our traffic coming in off of Gulfview, coming into the property and leaving off of Gulfview. So we ask all the contractors to, even if they're coming from the north, to go up Gulfview and head south and go back across the bridge from wherever they're going. So we'll keep the plan is to keep all traffic out of the neighborhood.
Yeah, as opposed to driving down Polo or Gulfstream to, Old School, leaving this way.
And the big trailers need to coordinate with the police department, stage out on anyone act, correct?
Correct.
Any other questions? Are you finished with your?
I'm sure that you've heard enough from me. I've got a couple more slides, which you have all the information. So, and a couple elevations of the building, again, matches what's existing today. So thank you for your time. That's all I have. If there are no more questions.
Very good. Any other comments? Our first item of business is ordinance number 21/4. Any discussion on it? It's been read once, correct?
Quickly, Mayor, I'd just like to note that the approvals are contingent on the club and the town entering into a developers agreement, which is part of the record. Paragraph 2, E and F were modified slightly from the last time this was on reading, to include sort of an enforcement mechanism. So those paragraphs relate to the special exception requirements relative to the odor and noise complaint, and the engineer implementing some sort of a plan that the club would have to follow. The club would now have to follow that plan within 30 days, and if they fail to do that, they would need to cease operations until they met those requirements. So just wanted to put that in the record that these approvals are contingent on that, and that has been modified slightly from the last time we saw it.
So does this have to be read first again, or?
No, sir, it just relates to the developer's agreement, the ordinance. So we're all set.
Very good. Ms. Taylor, would you read the ordinance, please?
An ordinance of the Town Commission, the Town of Gulfstream, Palm Beach County, Florida, amending the Town Code of Ordinances at Chapter 66, zoning, R=6, District Regulations, Division 4, OR Outdoor Recreational District, Section 66-254, spatial exceptions, to provide for a spatial exception for reverse osmosis water plants associated with a golf course, providing for severability, providing for repeal of ordinances in conflict, providing for codification, and providing an effective date. It was passed on first reading on May the 14th, 2021, and it is now up for the final reading on this 9th day of July, 2021.
Very good. Ordinance number 21/4 has been presented to us on second reading. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve ordinance 21/4.
Second. Ms. Taylor?
Vice Mayor Stanley,
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein,
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes. We have a couple other motions. Ms. Orthwein?
I'd like to make a motion to approve a land clearing permit based on the finding that the construction of new reverse osmosis water plant and water storage tank meets the minimum intent of the design manual and technical EC standards.
Second. Ms. Taylor?
Vice Mayor Stanley,
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein,
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes.
Motion to approve a special exception to permit a reverse osmosis water plant and water storage tank in the outdoor recreational district.
Second. Ms. Taylor?
Vice Mayor Stanley,
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein, Mayor Morgan.
Yes.
Motion to approve a developers agreement between the Gulfstream Golf Club, the town of Gulfstream, requiring continued compliance with the special exception criteria after application approval.
Second. Ms. Taylor?
Vice Mayor Stanley,
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein, and Mayor Morgan.
Yes.
Motion to approve a level 3 architecture site plan review to permit the addition of a reverse osmosis water plant and water storage tank in the maintenance area at the Gulfstream Golf Club golf course to supply irrigation for the golf course.
Second.
Rita?
Vice Mayor Stanley,
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein,
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A thorough presentation. Appreciate it very much. Okay, let's move on to town manager's report, starting with utility underground.
Okay, so I'll give you an update on Comcast here. Comcast is done pulling all of their wiring out here on County Road, C Road, and Little Club Road. The only thing that they have left to do is, there's about 300 feet of conduit that they gotta put in on A1A out here north of C Road. And they're just waiting for the DOTs, to approve their permit. And, I am on the DOT's back about that. In fact, we talked to yesterday with the DOT, Trey and I, our favorite friend Rosie from the DOT. So, and all they have to do there is just pull the new, the new, service and splice it with all of our MDUs that are north of Sea Road out here. And that's all they have to do, because it's already from the front of the MDU to the building. And so, but they gotta connect it, with this cable. So that's all they have left to do, and then they can remove the rest of their, overhead service.
Well, it's connected to the home, so.
Yeah, well, no, that's, I think that's done kind of like, because they're actually gonna do that overnight, because they got to turn off the service.
Right.
And so they'll do that overnight, and I don't know, I think they said it takes about an hour. And so,
They have an actual list of what they're supposed to connect this time. I mean, well, fair, I mean, close, like 80%.
yeah, I know, we're hoping for 80 to 90.
Yeah. I don't want to belabor the subject.
Yeah, so anyway, but they've taken down about half of their overhead right now. I mean, the rest of the, like Gulf Spring Road and out here on A1A, they have to have this completed up here before they can do that. But, so they're gonna choose a time in the middle of the night to do that after that. So,
Very good.
Remind me about AT&T, where are they on decommissioning all their lines?
they're done.
Oh,
Yeah, AT&T is done.
I thought so, I just
wanted to right.
got it right.
Yes.
Nice, we're back on schedule with Comcast.
Yes, okay, so, the next is the check valve update, I'm gonna turn that to, Mr. Nazaro.
Thank you, sir. So we posted our bid for the check valve, I think it was last week. We have a mandatory pre-bid conference July 21st. The deadline to receive proposals and bid opening is August 6th, and we will have a bid suggestion, bid recommendation for you at the August 13th meeting. We have spoken to the vendor of the manufacturer of the check valves, and he said that with, between 15 and 30 days after he receives his order, he can have that in the hands of the installer. So that would put us, in sometime in mid-September. So the ideal timeline for that is to get them in, immediately before the king tides come in October. So we're right on schedule for that.
Great, very good, thank you.
Okay, and next is the water meter installation update. We have all of the water meters in-house, and, we've actually reached out to the installer, and are proposing a date of July 19th.
19th, which is a week from Monday, so we are.
To give them a notice to proceed.
So we give them the notice to proceed, after today's meeting, we said as early as the 19th, he can come in and get started. So we're looking at, that installation in mid to late July. So that's when the vegetation and the homes will be impacted. We're sending out a general postcard that notifies them of the process, and we didn't know if you wanted some more specific notification above and beyond what we've sort of already done for the homes whose landscaping will be most impacted.
So, I trust that everybody got that.
I did receive it.
So that was the first notice that was given.
By the way, I thought that was great. I mean, really tremendous.
Thanks to Ms. Tu for most of the, editing and creation of that, so. And then this is a notice that, that we would send to the individual.
This would be to everybody townwide, and informing them that this is what's happening. Your water service will be interrupted for about a half an hour. They'll need access to your meter box, but we will not be inside your house. We're going to be in uniform, things like that. Just a general, very standard, just through a seal of Gulfstream and change the names, and something they send out to all of their clients when they're doing this kind of work. Just so you know that there's going to be an impact and there are going to be people in the area.
I'm trying to remind me that on where you're gonna actually move people's vegetation, are you going out directly to those homes that are more directly impacted with water?
So that's my question. If
Yeah.
you want something more specific sent out, we're going to identify all the homes that are impacted. It is a significant amount, it's 100 or some. So the question is, do you want us to send out specific communication to those homes above and beyond what we've done, so they know that your vegetation will be removed this month to facilitate new water meters being installed, or is what we've done sort of sufficient?
My instinct is just to, get in front of, I didn't know. Because there's gonna be a lot of I didn't know.
There's still gonna be.
Well,
I mean, we could, we have identified, you know, the homes, and, I mean, probably actually going up and doing a knock on the door.
Well, that's what I was gonna say, I was gonna personally myself go to each home, that is gonna be a large impact on the vegetation itself. I'm gonna knock on the door and explain it to them and let them know what's happening, so that way they can't come back and say, well, we need to know.
Yeah, and if they're home.
Yeah.
This was raised last meeting, and, I spoke to the Civic Association, that notice went out. I spoke to Chet Snavely at Plaza Soleil to get the word out there regarding the disruption of, some of the foliage. So I think the word is getting out, but certainly knocking on doors and another notice to those impacted residents is a good idea.
And if the property managers that are on staff that I am aware of, that they are here and they're looking over the property, I'm gonna reach out to them and speak to them personally myself.
Right, because a lot of these houses, the property manager knows more about the water meters and their irrigation systems and all that than the owners.
Okay, great.
So.
I got hold of Buckeye, by the way.
Oh, you did.
$1,800 later.
They're not cheap anymore, they used to be cheap.
I won't ask what that's
Old
about.
backflow percent.
Oh, okay. So anyway, so we're gonna be proceeding, with this, and,
Yes, it's good, good, and well done. Staff is, always doing a great job on this sort of thing.
okay, so, an update on the town water pressure issue. Basically, over the last month, I mean, since we last met, we've gotten no complaints, correct? Now, that doesn't mean we haven't been doing some work to try to investigate to, you know, why this may be happening. And by the way, you probably saw in the Coastal Star where Delray Beach admitted that they were having some low pressure problems too. And they failed to admit that to us when we were meeting with their staff, but, so we kind of found out in a roundabout way. But anyway, so our police department has been doing an assessment, you know, with the night guys, and, so what it's shown to us, the biggest problem at this point in time is, people that, are watering, the odds and evens are watering on at the same time. And so that, our code doesn't allow that. You know, we haven't really strictly been enforcing that, but, so that's one of the problems is you've got a whole side of the street and the other side is watering at the same time. And then we've been able to identify certain homes that, water all the time. But you gotta remember that what we've been doing, it's really a 3-day period, and so what we really need is kind of to look at it for a whole week, but it's giving us a pretty good idea that when you've got all the odds and evens watering at the same time, it's gonna affect your pressure. So we're continuing to kind of follow up and see who we need to go, maybe knock on the door and visit, which is, I think, the best way to do it, you know, with people that, water every day. And, so that's where we are.
Well, how do you account for the improvement now? Just having gotten the word out, Anthony talking to some of the residents?
I suspect that some of it is
Or just people
Well,
they're
some
not
of-
here, so nobody's calling to complain.
Or
Well, that could be, but some people may have read the, you know, our little notice, and which included the fact that odd and even numbers are only supposed to water on certain days.
You know what happens though, the gardeners just come in,
Right.
they come to, you know, because you change it and then they notice the grass is a little dead and then they
Yeah,
just change
right.
whatever they want.
Well,
It
okay,
happens all the
so
time.
I guess that would lead to my next question is enforcement, which, you know, can include fines. In fact, I think, Rita and I were reading the code and I think, what was it, the second or third notice that, it was like $250 or 30 days in jail.
Execution is the next step.
So no, we should increase, 60 days in jail.
So, and the vice mayor said, yeah, that's probably applies in really bad drought situations. But I'm not sure that we're gonna go that far at this point in time. If it gets bad enough, then maybe we'll have to do that. But, you know, there are enforcement, responses built into the code.
Well, if the police notice it, you know, not address on an even day, watering, it should be brought to town's attention.
Right.
And notice go out.
Correct.
Gotta get them
Correct.
caught somehow.
That's right.
Okay, good.
Great. So, and then, just finally here, I just wanted to, report back to you, you know, since we did our, minor drainage and road improvements in the core, there over the winter, I've been able to go out, and I don't know if you guys have, but, after significant rain events, and it's just amazing to see the water, the water is moving and going into the catch basin. And so that's actually working. Now, it doesn't mean that you're gonna still see water standing on them, but that's because of the flat areas that we're gonna be addressing, you know, and talking about actually today.
Right.
But the water is moving, you know, which is the first thing we don't need to have happen. So that's it.
Great news. Okay, that's it for town managers' reports. Let's move on to, Baxter and Whitman's CIP review and update.
So, this is Rebecca, Travis, that we all know, but I'd just like to just make a couple comments before she starts. So right now, we're in the 4th year of our 10-year capital improvement plan. The 5th year starts October 1 of this year. So what has been happening in this year, our planning, research, and design, it's really a planning, research, and design period, that also will include bidding and then contract negotiations. So that's what's been happening up to now, and then after we have our discussions today, then they will continue doing that with, the work that we're proposing to start in the summer of 2022. So this year, we would have no construction over the season. And again, we're projecting out that it wouldn't begin until the late spring or maybe early summer of next year. Let's see. So and part of that research and design that's been happening, of course, Mr. Hiscock has been reporting to us. And I did want to say that I have had conversations, at least with the administration at the Rural Club, because I think we concluded the lake area that we'd like to use, that is really a requirement of the South Florida Water Management District, to expand our drainage, that it needs to be, it needs to filter in this lake. Yeah, water quality. And so the Little Club, Anthony met with their manager of the golf course, and they walked it, and they really concluded on one of the, you may be showing that today, I don't know, but so we've talked to the Little Club, and they're agreeing to the area that we would expand this to. So, okay, that's great, thank you.
Mr. Pratt, do you want that?
Yeah, this is her PowerPoint. I'm just letting you follow along, so.
Yeah, the table might be a little hard to read. So Rebecca Travis with Baxter and Whitman. Good morning, everyone. Here with me, Jeff Whitcup from my office to answer any questions on the presentation we did the last meeting. So we're here to talk about the 10-year CIP status and update you on where we're at today. The CIP was completed in 2018. And as Mr. Dunham mentioned, we have years that have design permitting, bidding, and then the following year is the construction, and then we go to the bidding of the next project and design of the next project. So year by year, that's kind of how we've been working in the advancement of the program. So to date, we've, in 2018, we completed the Polo Drive drainage outfall design construction of that. In 2020, as you know, we, did the design in 2019 and constructed the A1A water main from, Gulfview to Sea Road, and that included the extension along North County and then along Little Club Road, all part of the, CIP plan. And also, last year, we completed some minor drainage improvements that we just were discussing, primarily providing some swales, some, aprons to get the water off the roads into the drainage inlet, and then we did some widening along Polo, Gulfstream, Banyan, and Lakeview. So now, as I mentioned, Jeff talked last time about the core drainage improvements, which the recommendation is to provide an outfall shown with that red line, going west from Polo, and then also expanding lake area in Little Club, just a representative location in this map. It could be in other locations less specific to here. So that's that recommendation. This is, was not included in the CIP, so this would be an additional project to the CIP, as was prior minor drainage improvements project. So with this drainage issue kind of coming to the forefront, we recommend that this get the improvements be done now. The drainage or the design get started on that. But we also want to talk about modification to the split of the work in the core. So the master plan had a north core improvement and a south core improvement, basically the split being along Banyan. With this recommended drainage improvements being on the west side of the core, we're now looking to recommend the split of the core work be a west core in 21, 22, and an east core work being done in 23, 24 timeframe. So in the west core, as I'm showing here, the orange, the streaks in orange, would be road reconstruction, swale work, minor swale work, possibly some drainage inlets along the roads in the orange, Old School Polo, Mill west of Polo, Gulfview west of Polo, Palmway, Banyan, and Right Way. And with that, we would do the water main improvement as well. So the design for this would be 2021 with construction, bidding and construction in 2022, probably towards the end of the year. And the east core, let me back up. So the west core, we already did all the widening that was recommended for the west core with the minor drainage improvement project. So now we're talking east core. We've got some widening on the east core, which was recommended in the master plan. So we're talking Sea Road, Gulfstream, Lakeview to Gulfview, Bermuda, Oleander, and Middle Road, Polo to Gulfstream.
Rebecca, you said the west side road expansion has already been met with our Band-Aid approach of slight expansion to the roads?
Yes, the intent was to have a minimum road width of 18 feet. We're talking a two-way road, 18 foot of pavement, and then Polo, we made a minimum of 20 foot road width because much of it already was 20, so we wanted to have a consistent road width along Polo. So yes, we're done with the widening on the west side.
So when the road work is done in connection with the drainage work, we will not be expanding the road, at least on the west side, any further than those roads already are.
Correct.
Right. Great, that's excellent.
Yeah. So now on the east side, we got some widening to do. And then
We also are going to reconstruct these roads, C Road, Gulfstream, Bermuda, Oleander, Middle, east of Polo, Banyan, east of Gulfstream, Gulfview, east of Polo, and then we're looking to just mill and overlay Lakeview. The condition of that, is hopefully, we think we don't need to reconstruct it fully. And then, as I mentioned, we're gonna be doing water main improvements. So basically, we're showing the red line for an upsize of the water main there, but we are actually replacing all the water mains, the light blue line. So, we were talking about what the impacts of this would be, how we would situate the new water main in the right of way. So, as we all know, AT&T's on one side of the road typically where their improvements have gone. You probably have the existing water main on the other side of the road. We don't really want to put the new water main where the AT&T is, just because you don't want to dig a trench next to all the, live power lines and stuff. Then the existing water main on the other side is active, and we want to keep it active while we put in the new line. So we'll have the existing line serving the existing homes, and then we put in the new line, and then we switch it over after everything's completed. So with that in mind, with the other utilities in the right of way, we're probably gonna have to put the new water main in the street, under the road pavement, just because it's kind of where we're gonna have room. So that's important relative to impacts we anticipate that will reduce the impacts to existing landscaping or hedge encroachment that might be in the road now, the right of way now. So we're probably gonna put the water main down the street. Obviously, that's gonna be finally determined when we get into the design, but that's kind of our intent at this point. And then, like I said, the split is gonna be east and west core on this as well, if that's acceptable for the commission.
It certainly makes sense, particularly since the road work, road expansion has already been, at least temporarily, accomplished. There will not be the issue of the road expanding into existing landscaping any more than it already has. So that's great.
Can I ask a question? This is just funny, but do you take out the old lines of water? I mean, do you take those out of the ground?
You can remove it, but typically we abandon it in place.
And just leave it in there?
Usually you grout it, put like a
Concrete slush. It's a concrete slush they pour into it, and it hardens inside the line, so it won't be able to, disperse any fibers or anything that's inside of it if it gets broken. If someone comes and digs on it and they get it, they did the same thing out on me when it's typical.
Okay.
Because it's very expensive to take that stuff out of the ground.
I was just gonna say,
And you gotta
so,
remember
You're talking
what
in the millions.
it's made of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Realistically, it'd be better to take it out.
Realistically, yes, but financially, it won't be a wonderful thing for us, because it's expensive to get rid of the stuff.
Yeah.
It has to be packaged in a certain way, and then it has to be transported, and
I understand.
it's very expensive, very.
Okay, so what do we do moving forward from this point?
we just wanted to present to you the differential in the split, instead of doing a north-south, we're looking at an east-west. The west, since the drainage improvements are more of an issue at this point, we would do the west area first. And I also, like to mention, this actually works a little bit better as far as maintenance of traffic, because we're gonna do the west side, you'll have a Gulfstream, kind of your north-south route. Not that any roads will be closed completely, but just kind of, let you go on Gulfstream while we're doing the west side, and then when we get the west side done, then they can use Polo to go north-south, without worrying about flaggers or.
And remember, I mean, actually, we'll be doing this almost like we did out here on A1A. The road, they never close it 24 hours. It's always opened up at the end of the day. And so would Polo, in this case, you know, our biggest road there. So, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
It would be opened back up, you know, after the workday. And like we did out there, if there are residents who just absolutely need to get out or get in and are impacted by it, I mean, the contractor, and this will be in the contract, has to stop what they're doing and make those arrangements for them. So, and that's what we had to do out here.
You know, we always have the coordination with, we maintain a resident log of any kind of issues. We address them right away or have the contractor address things right away. We make sure that, you know, we know what day the garbage pickup is. We make sure the mail delivery is every day. There's no closing. I mean, they didn't even really close North County, and that's a very narrow right of way. They maintain traffic there the whole time they were working, so it'll be maintained.
I'm curious, I know you're gonna be, dissecting it into east and west, but as you proceed with the construction, let's say you started at the north end of Polo, are you gonna rip up the entire road down to Gulfview, or will you do it in sections?
We can.
Well, it's just a question, I don't, yeah,
I think we did it in sections out here on A1A, right? I mean, they
There
go
were sections,
yeah.
they put the steel plates over the trenches.
Right.
We could drive over them.
Right.
Kept hitching up.
Right.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, and on A1A as well, we had drill pits that, that's the reason why we had, those aren't as easy to fill in not every night, so we use the steel plates on the drill pits. With this smaller pipe construction, it's gonna be open cut, so they're gonna install the pipe for that day and fill the trench back in before they leave. Probably will not need to use the plates, but that is an option if they need to do that.
So really what, you had asked the question, where do we go from here? And again, as she said, I mean, I think our goal is to get your direction in terms of the scope of work that we need to kind of assign to them now, and which is what she has just outlined for you. And if the town commission is good with that scope of work, and then we can, you know, then we'll have to, you know, negotiate an agreement with Baxter Whitman, which we would have on our August meeting to do planning and design and all that.
I just want to circle back sorry to keep going back to it, but I want to flesh out my understanding. The west side, primarily the Polo Road, the road width is now established, but with the improvements to be made, will we be increasing or expanding the swales on the east-west side? I'm trying to think of what impact on the residents along this road will be.
The intent would be, and we can have Jeff jump in here if he needs to. The preference is to use swales just because it's less expensive. But in some cases, if we have an outfall like the Polo outfall that we just talked about, or the one that you mentioned that will be new between Banyan and Old School, if we can easily add pipe extension and additional inlets to bring more water to those outfalls, we'll do that. So it's kind of like, what do we have, what options do we have available to us? Can we connect it directly to an outfall pipe, or is the best we can do a swale? Now, just like we did with the minor drainage improvements project, there were cases where, okay, we had on our plan to put a swale here. Well, we got out there and there was too much that would be impacted, so we maybe, shifted the road widening. So 1 foot on either side, we shifted it 2 feet on the north side or whatever. So, our intent was to try and avoid taking out anybody's hedge line or, their landscape area.
That's my question.
Yeah.
So do you anticipate taking out anyone's landscape?
We are gonna say, we're gonna try with everything we can to avoid it. Yeah, we don't wanna do that, and I think we can manage it to not impact.
Certainly on Polo, the existing
Yeah.
line has got a lot of stuff on it, the one that's there now. And so that's why we need to get away from that. And I kind of anticipate, like, as Travis said, the minor improvements we made over the winter almost was like a block-to-block design build. Because we made some changes in the field,
Yeah.
it was not unusual to make changes in the field because of the impact that it might have on certain aspects. So I'm out there with them, looking at that.
Great, and I think that's the main concern of the commission.
Well,
as we
and-
move forward.
And the biggest challenge is gonna be some of the one-way, I think like Oleander is gonna be a challenge to how we can improve the drainage there, but, we'll look at it on a case-by-case basis, and, we certainly are not going to be just telling everybody, rip this out, you're in the right of way. We're not approaching it like that, and we don't plan to.
Except that one house on the north end of Oleander, where
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
A lot of that's planted. Water's not bad there.
No, I know.
It's
It's
Gulf
the other-
Gulfstream Road behind, yeah,
Yeah.
before we get to the school catch basin.
That's true.
Any other questions for Rebecca?
Just a couple of quick financial questions. Do you have any sense of what the incremental cost of the core drainage improvements will be?
Yeah, so in that table 4.1, that's
Because this is incremental, you said, correct?
right, so on that table 4.1, this is updated from the CIP, and this is in 2018 dollars. The yellow highlighted, cells are actual numbers that we ended up, oh yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, this is
And so that's, Rebecca put an inflation
Right, back.
on that table sheet just in now. So we're looking, during the design, the year that we're doing the design and permitting, we're like, maybe 100,000 up to, like, we're at 608, design fee permitting for various, projects there. And then with the construction, then we're getting up in the million, $2-3 million, depending on what the areas that we're doing the improvements are. So when we originally did the table 4.1 in the master plan, we were just trying to divide things up, so we kind of had a consistent expenditure each year. Now that, you've actually spent more than we anticipated with the A1A water main, because then we added Sea Road, North County, and Little Club that wasn't on that original project, but it made sense to do that, and you ended up getting some good pricing doing that. So, now we're kind of getting into it where, the projects are not so evenly split out.
I'm thinking more about, what we said to the residents it's gonna cost us X dollars to do the CIP.
Yeah,
And now we added, additional scope for the drainage. Is that another 300,000, 400,000?
yeah, so at the bottom of the table 4-1, our original 2018 CIP total was 10,339,000. I don't know if you can read that tiny little number.
Yep.
And then now we're at 11.1 million.
Okay, that's exactly.
So I'm tracking, we're tracking what we had to start at 2018 and,
So just summarize for me again, I can't control the reasons, to get the permits to design and to complete both the, water drainage, improvement as well as the road improvement for the west side. What would you budget that at?
for the design and permitting, we're at about $500,000.
West side?
And then
Just the west side.
just the west side. And then the construction, we're looking at about $3 million.
So $3.5 million is what would be budgeted to complete the west side project.
For the west side, water main and road, and then add to that the outfall upsizing and the lake expansion, that's another $650,000.
So we're over 4.1, 4.2, and that has to be done. We have to have the additional outflow destination, lake expansion.
Well, and if, we're doing road work anyway, so it would make sense to come back later and do that outfall and that lake expansion, because we're gonna get a permit for the whole thing, and then that's gonna address the sawtooth of the road, and, we're trying to do all the drainage improvement together.
Okay, and then what would you estimate a budget for the east side? Permitting, construction,
So the east side looks like about $350,000 for design and permitting, and the construction is about 2.2 million.
so 2.6, 2.7, complete that. So we're
Yeah, so like I said, we're kind of getting away from the evenly
7.5.
distributed money per year, but, yeah.
And I know we're gonna get this question, and there's 4 reasons why, but, when you talk to the residents, they're complaining about the roads still. We got a lot of other factors going in, including the water main, obviously the drainage, but then some of the residents, not all, are gonna be like, well, why can't we do it all at once? We're gonna have a disruption. We staged it this way, now we're splitting it. We got cash flow is one reason, big reason. Second of all is avoiding major impact over parts of 2 seasons. I mean, those are the 2 main reasons, but I'm just throwing it out there that there's a large number of residents go, we gotta deal with this. They're gonna look, I know a lot of residents, well, so $2.5 million, just do it all at once on the east side. I know we're already getting that. I'm just pointing that out, not that we're gonna change the project.
And Vice Mayor, we talked about that, and.
Yeah, oh, I know,
And
yeah.
you're right,
Yeah.
one is the cost of
Sure.
all at once.
Which we staged with no debt, yeah.
And then there's a $5 million limit, after which, we have to go out to bid for, engineering.
Right.
And,
Which is extremely disruptive.
yeah, and then the length of time. And look, I'd probably be the same way, that, I'd just get it done all at once, but, those were the factors.
But I think that question will come back.
Sure.
Obviously, everybody knows.
You also have to take into consideration that the MOT for moving people around, we were doing everything at one time.
Yeah.
It's not feasible.
Yeah, I personally think it's, visualizing doing the west side, the core, and I need to access my house. It'd be nice to go down Gulf Stream. The road will be the regular road, as opposed to going down all dirt roads, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's interesting perspective on it. And you probably all have sense, I'd rather go spend the money now and get it done. Once we decide to do something, I'd like to get it done. But in this case, I have a different perspective on it.
Well, we got caught in this with the undergrounding, where we separated into two phases, and the second phase, based on the time it took and inflationary pressures, as well as just supply and demand, it ended up costing significantly more than what had been budgeted.
That was gonna be my second question. We have a budget originally of 10 million, or whatever the number is. And now it's 11.1. I guess it was 10.4, now it's 11.2. But we all hear about inflation. It's a big debate about whether it's temporary, blah, blah, blah. But do you think that, these numbers, and Rebecca incorporated an inflation factor to allow for potential increases? So now, as we proceed with this, I think we need to have our eyes open in terms of, are we going to be spending the 10 million one, which we know are not, now it's 11.1. And I think it's just important that we know if we're going to spend 15 or 18, we better know it now rather than be halfway into this thing. Is that?
So, yeah, I think it's what we need to talk about. By the way, what was the cost of the main line on A1A, that complete project? I take it.
So the construction, was 2 million, just a little over 2 million.
Well, all told, because we just approximated about $7.5 million to complete this project, I think.
Okay,
That's
so you mean with the design and everything?
Yeah, where are we getting 11.2?
Phase one would be the construction price plus the design and program, what the mayor's asking.
Okay, so the actual construction cost was 2.081 million, and our design was 178,000.
Okay, so where are we getting the budget of 11.2? What other work is being done?
So the 11.152 million is all the projects now on the CIP.
So you've got the check valves that we added, we've got.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at, these miscellaneous other.
And then a
The
minor
check
core
valves
drainage
aren't in
system.
this one, the check valves aren't in this table,
Okay,
and the water meters aren't in here.
so,
And we had the temporary road expansion, I think that was
not in it, right?
Oh, you're asking that, yes, minor drainage improvements was not included in the original master plan. The improvements that Jeff discussed last month were not in the original master plan, the lake expansion and the outfall upsizing. So those are the two projects that have been added to the master plan CIP.
I think it'd be useful, Rebecca, if you could work with reconciling that, having, this is what we said we were gonna do, this is what we're doing now, and what causes the increase, so we can all have a nice numerical presentation. Yes, please.
So Rebecca's will tag team for a second. So if you can bring out, did you hand out the new budget that we revised yesterday?
No, I haven't done that yet,
Okay, let me,
because we're not there yet.
well, it would be, okay, so,
But we can do that, I mean, we've
I'll
got.
just summarize, I'm
So-
kind of a big picture guy.
Yeah.
I don't like
All
to
right.
get into the.
right, okay, so I took Rebecca's numbers and filtered it into my numbers. And I went ahead and for 20, it's very tiny, but for 20 and 21, I went ahead and put our actual cost, what I'm assuming is going to be at the end of 21 in these numbers. Rebecca had a 30% was 30% construction contingency, right? 30%? 20. So I took her 20%, her base numbers, and I factored in a compounded interest rate in the second chart. So in the second chart, there's a compounded interest rate, inflation factored into it. I'm a little nervous about 22's number, so I added another 1% into the compounded interest in there. I probably should have added more, but we'll talk about that later. So it's when we get to the budget, these are my projections for the fund balance, and we actually come out okay. And here's the best part, the best news. So we are building a new subdivision called Blue Water Cove, which will increase our ad valorem, which will base, which we'll be able to use that money as it comes in to subsidize future construction projects. Now, I'm really hoping nothing goes wrong with Blue Water Cove, but even so, with my projections, with her 20% and my compounded interest, we still come out okay.
Okay.
And Ron has gone over this, Ron Bennett from Mill and Holton Minor, and he feels confident that we've done a very good job being very conservative and that we should be able to take on the additional projects and still come out okay.
Okay.
And this was gonna be part of our discussion in the budget, but they really are married to each other. So it's okay, we're having this discussion. I was gonna remind everybody, I mean, I know the two of you weren't here when Ron gave his presentation. But Ron did say that he believed if we kept moving forward with, this cash management plan that is ever changing, but we're paying attention to it, that we'll be able to do the capital improvement plan without going into debt.
Well, does the plan work if we do the entire project at the same time? Or do we not have sufficient funds to do it all at one time?
There's a couple of reasons that I would prefer us not to do. You're talking about east and west,
Yeah,
right?
Right.
Our biggest problem with that is going to be, it's going to exceed the $5 million threshold, and we're going to have to go back out for RFP for the engineering for those projects. So, and I would prefer us not to do that, because I'm afraid that if we do try to tackle it in one fell swoop, it will decimate our fund balance, and I won't get all that interest from my investment, and then we may have to raise houses.
Can you do these projects simultaneously though, and not give it so much, and get under that $5 million?
That's what I was saying.
Well,
because you know what?
Project.
Inflation's coming, and we learned one lesson. Money's cheap now. I'm not into borrowing money, but it's cheap. To get it done maybe simultaneously as opposed to waiting.
Rebecca, why don't you and I, this is what I spent my career doing, why don't you and I work on that and at least come up with a set of numbers that we believe in and show the commission that if we do this, we're gonna be, down to $500,000 in our reserves, or whatever that number might be. And let's say we go in the hole on Joe Swarthwaite's comment. Money's available, it's inexpensive. If we temporarily use that as a bridge loan, that's a traditional way of dealing with things. I
think it's a great idea if you and Greg and Rebecca could sit down and evaluate this, both from a financial perspective, and then Trey, if you could legally evaluate it. There's always a couple ways to skin a cat.
Yeah,
I agree with Joe.
I'll respond to Mrs. Ortline, and I know what you're saying is.
People on the
Dividing
east
it
side
up.
is gonna have this beautiful new road, and the people on the west going, well, what happened to us, too? I mean, that's gonna be, I agree with Tom, is people are saying the roads are so horrible now.
But that cost, we got hammered on that underground.
Yeah, I know.
Phase 1, phase 2, it should have been bid out.
So, but your comment about splitting these up,
Simultaneously.
I know, but that's splitting Marshal's office has
Yeah.
hit up cities, right and left for doing that sort of thing, splitting bids up so they don't.
So the one downside is that you have to
Go
put out
out
to bid the engineering, design, is that right?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a $5 million threshold for projects. And so,
Well, but a lot of factors go into that, not just price, obviously.
well,
I mean, that doesn't seem like that big of an obstacle to me.
Because we still get to choose who gets the project.
Right.
no, I'm not talking about the contractors, I'm talking about the.
Oh, I
It's
know.
not about the engineers and
Right.
the engineering.
We don't have to, we don't have to
You don't have to take
pick
low
somebody
bids.
solely on price. This is the qualitative side too.
Right.
Right, no,
I mean,
for
price is a
engineers,
factor.
yes, of course. Oh, I see where you're.
But Baxter, what
I
is
see where you're-
experience
I see where you're.
with this project counts for a
No,
lot.
no, now I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Oh, no, I mean, absolutely, it's not on a price basis, it's on, experience and qualifications.
Yeah. I mean, now that, because we're looking at this, so I'm just telling you, if you take this map, and I know y'all are looking at this every day, when you have these meetings on this project. If you take this map and show it to 40 residents who, are experts at whatever they do, they're gonna be like, so we're gonna bifurcate this thing. I didn't realize, the season and golf carts, everybody enjoying themselves, we get that 100%. But you're gonna be like, okay, so you're doing a lot of work on Polo or on Gulfstream down the middle. And then you've got 1,000 feet of runs. I live partially on Oleander, I'm not gonna really count that, because almost all the houses on Oleander, but for one, have 2 entrances. I have 2, the only one is the school's house. So, and the garage on the common side, they've got some front exit. So you're gonna bifurcate this over a really, really small project when you're talking about a municipality.
This is a small
Yeah,
project.
that's a good point.
And I realize it's been set up to be split prospectively for 2 or 3 years, so I'm not minimizing that, but now we're sort of here again.
Yeah, I think we should evaluate it to see if it's feasible to do
Yeah,
it all
it may
at
not
once.
Yeah.
May not.
Real estate in Gulfstream is not going down. Every time a house sells, talk about the new project, you come up to a different
Right.
tax point. I mean, we are growing, and I think to minimize the residents' unhappiness is a good thing.
Look,
And
I'm not
they have
disagreeing
bought
with
these
anything
houses so expensive, I mean, it's just surreal to me, some of it. And so it'd be nice to try to get it done.
Well, that's.
So, I just wanna,
I'm convinced.
I know.
You can evaluate the.
Well, within reason, if we can, I think I agree with Tom, I mean, I think we should explore it, see if we can do it.
there's just one, I really, in the spirit of transparency, there is no way that we're gonna be able to finish this west project in fiscal year 21. It will spill over, not 21, 22. In 22, it will spill over into 23, fiscal year 23. There's just not enough time for us to actually do the construction all in fiscal year 22. So we're gonna already be pushing into fiscal year 23. So, there's that. And then, because we're trying to avoid the season, right, we're gonna be facing the same kind of issue. We're always trying to be very, very cognizant of the fact that people don't want us to be doing construction during the season. But we could, because there's gonna be an inherent delay, right, in the actual construction and the actual payout of things, we could do the construction projects back to back. That way it kind of bypasses the whole $5 million thing, and they run concurrently, so you could do the design while you're doing the construction, and the projects go boom, boom, and that way you don't have the traffic management problems either. And that is a reasonable.
But you're still talking about 2 seasons. Right?
Yeah, we're
taking
taking
a
a
part
part
season
regardless, right? Negative, yeah.
Here,
Right.
I mean, it's
Well,
one
I
of
don't
the,
know, could you do the whole core in one season?
Construction,
Yeah. I mean, he's bringing in more equipment, more people.
probably, maybe like 12 to 14 months, probably to construct it.
Okay. So maybe,
So you're gonna hit 2 seasons anyway, because of size, so I'm just trying to.
And God forbid you run into weather where it prohibits you, because remember, during the rainy season, you can't hardly do anything, especially if you're digging in the ground.
Right.
Ground's so saturated, you can't do anything.
at least that happens.
But we will look at it, I promise.
But so we'll look at two scenarios. I mean, first, Rebecca, from a construction perspective, it's gonna take 12 to 14 months. In other words, you'd have to do it over the season. You know, when people are here in the winter, if you wanted to do it all at one time, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So is there any reason, I mean, I'm not saying we should do it, but should we consider it, just to get it done?
I think we should consider it.
Oh, I mean, that's all we just need to hear that from you guys. I mean, we've been
I
concerned
think we
about.
should consider it. I mean, that's my feeling.
But you're gonna hear the budget. 'Cause
Yeah.
I questioned Greg on this morning about the CIP, but also the cost of living adjustment, inflation statistics from the government. And it's really shocking, frankly.
I agree.
And so we've got significant inflation built into this upcoming budget.
Right.
And you're gonna talk about that statistic as to why wages are going up.
Right.
Well, that's just in the last 12 months. And it's projected to get worse. I don't think there's any question about it. At least in my business, every component we buy is going up a minimum 15%, most of them 30%. But the impact on our product is significant. I don't see how that can't impact the cost of this project 2 years down the road.
Right.
So,
I mean, we're having problems with our audio visual system, because we can't get the
Semiconductor.
We can't get the components.
And so is the US auto industry. So, I mean, look at those two, and they're both being impacted by that.
Okay,
but whatever.
I will work with Baxter just to see how it works financially.
Great.
And in no way are we trying to get around the rules, but work within, I just want to say.
I think work within the rules
Yes.
is perfect.
Yeah.
But just to summarize, Paul and Rebecca and Greg are trying to sit down and
And we'll
review the
come back.
numbers and come back next month.
Yes.
With an evaluation of that.
Rebecca, we'll
But
be able to.
overall, as a consensus, we would agree to have this project go over a
Completed.
season.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll be able to do that in a month, can't we? To come back with this idea of doing it all in.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Sorry to ask so many questions and take so long.
Yeah,
but,
that's why we're here.
Appreciate it. Okay, next ARPB meeting is July 22nd at 8:30 a.m. for anyone who wishes to attend. Mr. Dunham, the finance report?
Yes, sir, there's nothing really outstanding in this that, we would point out to you at this point in time, and so we would just, read Rebecca's notes here, so we would ask for you to, unless you have questions, to.
Any questions? Nope. If not, we'll accept that as submitted. Chief, police report?
I request that the report be accepted as submitted. I have a couple of things I want to mention along with it there. We had a car, it's another show up on here because it's actually under this month. We had one taken last Saturday morning. It was a Mercedes SUV from 1230 North Ocean, the new development section. Apparently the garbage men apparently have access to the code for the gate. So when they come to pick the garbage up, they can open the gate and get it. Apparently they opened the gate and then got the garbage, and then as soon as they drove off, this other car pulled in behind them. Two guys jumped out and ran up in the driveway, and lo and behold, one of them got the keys in it. So they took the Mercedes, the other one was locked, and they didn't touch it. So I just got word before I walked over here that car was recovered this morning in Miami area. We also last week got notice that back in October of last year, we had a Porsche taken from Palm Way. That car finally showed up in a shipping container in Miami. it had the vent plates all taken off of it, so it couldn't be identified. They had to go into deeper depth to find it on it. So that one's probably been recovered. Manpower wise, we have, one officer that I should know by noon time for sure. I'm waiting on one piece of paper before we can hire him. Hopefully he'll start work Monday. I have a second one that we're doing a background on right now that we could probably have in place in a couple of weeks.
That'd be great.
So things are starting to
Be
get
perfect.
a little better there. Yeah.
Any questions, Chief Allen? If not, thank you very much. Okay, let's move on to Resolution 21-02. Taylor?
Resolution of the Town Commission, the Town of Gulfstream, Palm Beach County, Florida, establishing a policy to write off bad debt in a timely and expeditious fashion and providing an effective date.
We discussed this at the last meeting. Any questions for Rebecca or Trey regarding the bad debt issue? If not, is there a motion to approve the resolution?
And we should approve the resolution 21-02.
Second?
Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner Lyons,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley,
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein, Mayor Morgan.
Yes. Okay, let's move on to the budget.
Mayor, before I move on real quick, I just want to say one of the reasons why that bad debt policy is required is because we don't require deposits when you move into town. So a lot of the times it is a failure to pay your final bill and then the lack of us really wanting to chase after someone for, $300. So I didn't know if the commission was interested in implementing, some sort of a deposit that would secure that, because at this point, the residents are really subsidizing the people that move out and leave town and can't recover that. So I'm not saying it's a significant amount, but we were just looking to a deposit that would cover, an average bill, to be, given, when they move in.
Typically, they're, the other way to do it is that which frustrates people, but I deal with it all the time, is that in order to open a new account, somebody's got to pay the bill or the account's not open. Again, we're a smaller, more service-oriented town that doesn't want negativity for new owners who come to town hall and need staff, so you have to weigh that as opposed to deposit. Those are really the two ways.
Oh, okay, those are.
And we pay on the quarter, so our water bills are much larger. When we escrow for those things, $400 or $500, not $80. Some homes have much larger water bills than that, so, but those are really kind of the two options.
What are your thoughts?
Well, it's a practical matter. When somebody sells their home, they rely on their counsel and, the closing agents to say, okay, it's all settled up. I get my money when I sell and leave town, and it was fun being here, but, that's the past. And so, and then you have the new owner. Why am I paying for the old guy? So that's a problem. I don't know, maybe it's just the cost of doing business here. I don't know, asking for deposits, if it was thousands and thousands of dollars a year.
And how much is it?
How much is it?
We asked this last year, we weren't quite clear on it, Rebecca. What would you estimate annually is our bad debt for?
Annually?
Yeah.
About $2,000.
$2,000.
Yeah, it's just accumulated over this period of us not having a policy as to deal with it. So it's been
Right.
accumulating for almost a decade. So,
It's not 200,000, it's not 50,000.
no, it's like $2,000. Our residents, for the most part, are great. I mean, once in a blue moon, I'll have someone who passes away that may have a big bill. But that's usually
It's by and large not really involved with what I would call a sale or transfer of a real property in town. Those transitions usually are settled, right? For the most part.
We have made great efforts into fixing that. It used to be a major contributor, but we have made great efforts with our lien search process to ensure that that's no longer as big of a problem as it used to be.
I just leave it alone.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Okay, well, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing it up.
So,
Excuse me, Mayor,
Yes,
could we replace a couple batteries?
sure.
Just,
You have one for
These two.
my hearing aid?
on a solid road
that's
here.
right. Doesn't take long.
Quite a bit down. Very good.
Will I get a new one?
Yep. See, I'm too thrifty with the batteries. If I changed them all out when they weren't used, we wouldn't have to do this.
Tom and I have been using ourselves.
Thank you for running down.
We're still good.
Thank you, Rita.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Dunn.
Okay, there are a few things that I'm required to read here, so, but I do want to just point out, that the staff, is recommending, setting the 22 ad valorem tax rate at the rollback rate, once again, which, would be 3.6724. And, first of all, can you explain why we're handing these new budgets out?
So as part of our truth and millage process here in the state of Florida, we are a participant in what's called the E-Trend system. And it's a partnership between ourselves and the tax collector here in Palm Beach County. And I have to wait for them to upload some numbers for us to be able to kind of do our part. And I have their updated numbers for our estimated gross taxable value. So I just went ahead, before what you got were my best guesses. And so I just went ahead and updated by the official numbers from the E-Trend system.
Yeah, so the numbers that you have in this new packet are more accurate.
They're just more accurate, but I'd like to stipulate that this is a work in progress and that, this is just our initial stat. There are gonna be things that change. I know that there's gonna be things that change.
Okay, so, again, the reason, I wanna emphasize this, rollback rate is because we've done that really the last 4 years. I think we actually lowered the rate, 1 year below the rollback rate. But essentially what that does is that provides us with, basically the same amount of operating, funds generated by ad valorem taxes every year. So, and I'd just like to say that, so, because all these projects, studies, purchases, and costs for providing services that we provide every year, we've been able to continue to do that with the same amount of operating funds from the general fund. So, I just wanted to point that out. And again, some of these, I'm really required to read to you. So once again, the proposed, 2022 millage rate is 3.6724. And, I just told you that would produce, $4,626,948, for proceeds for operation. The prior year millage rate was 3.7591. And the prior year, ad valorem proceeds for operations, was $4,622,252. The prior year final gross taxable value for Gulfstream, was $1,229,616,560. The estimated gross taxable value for the 21 calendar year is $1,259,924,865. And in the general fund, we're estimating, calling this the West Core project, using $3,297,210. And the CIP, again, construction for the West Core project, we were estimating $1,377,492. And a lot of this, some of this we have already talked about during our CIP discussion. Again, we're in the fourth year of this program. And again, the 5th year would start in 2021. Obviously, doing these kinds of jobs, while we try to do them in our calendar years, I mean, it's impossible to do because our calendar year is October 1 through September 30th. Just highlighting some of the capital purchases that we have in the budget this year. We do have the commission chamber carpets at $10,000. I'm like to get a 4-place golf cart. We've got that at $15,000. And here's the reason, because doing these projects here in town, and I get on that golf cart, I've only got room for one other person. I don't know how many times if I had a 4-place one, I could have Comcast on there with me, the engineers on there with me. It just, instead of driving 3 pickups down, trying to find a place to park on a narrow road, I'm able to take either the contractor or the engineers with me and go look at things. And
Plus a couple sets of clubs.
I got an extra holder.
And a cooler, right?
That was my recommendation.
And so, and we also have 2 squad cars at $70,700. We also have a Polaris ATV to replace the one we have now. Chief, I believe, with our weather over here and the locations it has to go, the frame on that, on the one that we have is pretty much gone, right?
The frame just rotted out from the salt.
How old is that unit?
It's, almost 5.
Yeah,
Almost 5 years.
About right. Wow.
Yeah, Manalapan has the same thing, and they say they get about 2 or 3 years out of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I saw you telling it once.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's happened.
Then we have a 4-wheel drive pickup to replace the one we have now that we bought in 2006. I think we actually bought it used in 2006. And the thing about that truck is when you go around the corner too fast, you're afraid you're going to lose the bed because it's really not very secure. And
That's
so,
what I call our water truck,
That's
Yeah.
what Betsy.
our water/maintenance truck.
Correct.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
use that. That's everywhere.
we felt like, for safety's sake, we should replace it. Then we have computer engineering for GIS, water information at $20,000. Can you just briefly say what that is?
Well, it's an overlay of replacing the old infrastructure system that we have on file. That's for contractors when they come in and need to find out where certain things are. We can just send them a link and they can track it through their computer system and be able to locate certain things. If it's not marked out, at least they'll have an idea what it is that's in the underground. So, it's just an updating the system because it's so old right now.
And then we have, we're getting a motorized vibratory tank. And, at about $3,000. And what that is, you know, when you go out and our guys make pothole repairs, this is a tamp that can actually tamp down the asphalt instead of our guys trying to do it, manually. So it just makes for a better repair. So those are, and then we have money in there for, the supplies and equipment that might be needed back in the workshop, so. Also, the staff is recommending, we touched on this for a minute there, the staff is recommending a 4% COLA increase in the salaries. What, basing that on, and we try to refer to this every year, but this year is kind of unusual. The U.S. Department of Labor, Bureau of Labor Statistics, the Consumer Price Index for all urban customers increased over the last 12 months at a 5% rate. And then you can break that down into the various items that are included in that. For instance, energy over the last 12 months has risen 28.5%. used cars, trucks, 7.3% just in May, and 10% in April. The index for food away from the home rose 4% over the last year. Full service meals rose 4.1%, over the last 12 months. I mean, there's, other indexes, for medical, and, let's see, the index for, my point is the indexes that they're using, this one, over the last 12 months, all item index increased 5%, and was the largest 12-month increase since a 5.4% increase for the period ending August 2008. And I also have, indexes for even our localized area, the CPI for urban wage earners and clerical workers in the U.S. and South, over the last 12 months has risen, by 5.6%. And then in the Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach area, that over the last year has risen by 4.1%. And so we're looking at these items, and that's why I'm requesting a 4%.
How does that compare to other towns in the barrier island? Your knowledge.
It's probably in the, what we're discussing that this month because the last time they did this survey was about a month ago. All I remember was Palm Beach saying they were gonna do 24 or 6%. Now, not all people were doing 4, but there were a lot that, I'd say were in about the top third. But that was a month ago. I don't know what people.
Can you let us know what the averages are? Is there a new report coming out or?
Yeah, but we're gonna discuss that at our meeting this month, which is the 4th Friday. So, this was not something that we just reached out of the air to pull out.
I mean, I can tell you, I'm kind of operating at a similar size and, with similar levels of employees across the board, and I've had to move the last 24 months. One, a hiring environment, depending on if there's transition. And two, I've had to no one's more conservative than Stanley's. I've had to kind of move things up. So I'm not saying it's being too out of line. We are a municipality that we're government standards. So.
Yeah, and I mean, we are, we compare ourselves with other towns and cities and not necessarily the private sector. So, I'd say probably that, I couldn't tell you what the average is. I would say right now, probably 3 because that's between 0 and 6. So, but I don't think anybody's at 0.
What is COLA stand for?
Cost of living.
Cost
Adjustment.
Cost of living.
Okay, just the cost of living?
Right, yes.
Cost of living. A.
Adjustment.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, yes.
Like the CPI, but
Yes,
COLA.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, actually, the call is really basically based on CPI.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm
That's what
used to
COLA
CPI, sorry.
So what is
When you
that?
get to my age, you learn about Social Security. There's a COLA adjustment.
So, I mean, and again, I mean, we looked at the, sources to try to find, the financial impact of inflation and so it wasn't done just by a panacea of pulling something out of the
What
air.
is the CPI last, what was it?
Well, for,
Because that's what we used to give, just everything.
for the West Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm area, it's 4.1.
Okay. So, okay, that's what I wanted. Thank you.
Any other questions?
No.
Further explanation?
Let's see, No, really, our total, budget this year is $11,104,053. That compares to last year, which was $7,597,000. 2020 was, $9,707,000. It all depends on, everything, our budgets are all CPI driven. CIP, driven, so. I did have a couple pages, I wanted to, Rebecca, to just explain the numbers. And I promise you, it's just 2 or 3 of them, so Rebecca, if you can turn to, if you can turn to page 3, the general revenues, could you just explain the operating transfer number?
So the operating transfer is just where we're drawing down on fund balance. So in the revenue section. In the revenue section, operating transfer means, hey, we're pulling money out of fund balance to supplement our revenues this year to be able to afford our expenditures. And then if you look at the expenses, there's actually an operating transfer where we're taking money from the general fund balance and transferring it over to the water fund to help pay for all those water lines. So those are pretty standard government accounting things.
And if you'll look on that same chart, under federal grants, we've got $400,000. I brought that up at last month's meeting. I guess you guys weren't here, so that's federal money that was approved back in March by the federal government, called the American Rescue Plan Act.
Yes, it's short, we call it ARPA.
Yeah, and so all towns and cities, I read the statistics. I think our number, these are estimates, and they've got to be, they're related to the COVID issue. Palm Beach County is, compared to ours, their number was 290 million. Ours is 400,000. So, but this was approved back in March, and there are certain things that it can be used for. Ours would be for infrastructure. So, and that's one of the things that's eligible for those payments. Just one other, so could you, Rebecca, on page 5, roads and streets, just the construction in progress.
Because our capital project isn't supposed to be, or isn't projected to be completed until actually around maybe December or January into the following fiscal year, it's just a nice little accounting thing that we just kind of earmark the money, and that way, whatever is in that budget will be considered reserved fund balance in the following audit, and so we can just use it to pay for the finishing of the CIP project.
And the last one is just page 7, it's the penny sales tax fund. I just wanted to tell you that we are using some of this penny sales tax money towards our CIP.
We've been building it up. We'll use $100,000 of it to help pay for some of the construction in the court.
Right.
Good.
So, unless you have any other
Any questions? Do we need to vote on anything?
Yes, you do.
Just the millage and the rollback.
Here's 3 motions, or no, it's actually 4 motions.
Let's give those to Mr. Lyons.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the proposed millage rate of 3.6724 for the fiscal year 2021/20/2022. You individually?
Yes.
Yes, is there a
Second.
Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner Lyons?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the certification of rollback millage rate of 3.6724.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner Lyons?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes.
I make a motion to set the date of the first public hearing, tentative budget meeting to be September 10th, 2021 at 5:01 p.m.
Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner Lyons?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley,
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwyne,
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes. Make a motion to set the date of the second public hearing, final budget meeting to be September 22nd, 2021 at 5:01 PM.
Second.
Rita?
Commissioner Lyons,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley,
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwyne,
Yes.
and Mayor Morgan.
Yes. Well, thank you
The
very
last
much.
comment I wanna make is, I wanted to point out that, Ms. Renee has been promoted to deputy clerk.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's great.
Very good. Any other comments, questions? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you very much.
Boy, that was a long one, y'all.
Okay, I need to stay to sign the,
Yeah, we got
resolution.
It could have been longer, but.